Once upon a time, the Great Indian Bustard was close to becoming the national bird of India. However, the species is currently critically endangered with less than 100 individuals in the wild. On this episode of the Think Wildlife podcast, I speak to Sujit Narwade, who is leading the conservation of the Great Indian Bustard and the Lesser Florican at the Bombay Natural History Society. Tune in to listen more and do not forget to share and subscribe to this podcast. Welcome, Sujit sir, to our podcast. It's a pleasure to have you here. Most of your work has revolved around the Lesser Florican and the Great Indian Bustard. What interested you to work with this?
So basically, I belong to a place called Solapur in Maharashtra state, Maharashtra, India, which is actually a drought-prone area and dry grassland areas. And one of the Great Indian Bustard sanctuary is, located in Solapur. And since I belong to that area, I was familiar with the landscape, but I was not aware about the grim situation of the Great Indian Bustard over there. But after joining BNHS in 2004, I came to know about this species and its status that time. So I just, being a local, I was aware about the bird, but not aware about the status. So I slowly I started gathering more information. And in 2014, I got registered for PhD, and I was so lucky that I got opportunity to work on that bird in my native place only. That's how I got into this, conservation of Great Indian Bustard and Lesser Florican. Uh, Basically, I belongs to the same area where this bustard used to found. So that's the only thing I can say. My interest actually got into this.
Why are the species so threatened?
So basically, we will talk about the four species found in India. So basically, Great Indian Bustard, Lesser Florican, and Bengal Florican, three of them are critically endangered. While and these are resident species in Indian subcontinent, and basically Hobara bustard, which is now called as Macqueen's bustard, that is migratory bird, and that winters into western part of northwestern part of country in Rajasthan and Gujarat. So basically, bustards have very slow life history. They don't have this hind toe, so that's why they cannot perch anywhere. They cannot perch on tree. They cannot perch on wires anywhere. So they have to spend their entire life on ground. And earlier this human population was comparatively less. That's why there were so many undisturbed areas were available for them. Undisturbed areas, undisturbed habitat. But slowly, this habitat got degraded, and even their dependency on land created some ecological constraint. Uh, Historically, they were extensively hunted for food, and they have a small clutch size, and usually males don't take part in parental care, and that's how there is a lot of responsibility on females to rear the chicks. And the threats actually, if we consider historically and at present, the number of threats to the species as well as their habitat are getting increased.
In the news, there's a lot of talk about how power lines are a threat to the bustards. So why is this the case?
So bustards basically they have poor frontal vision, and that's why they don't have wide vision. So that's how and they are what we can say that during takeoff and landing, they need some time, and they are low flying birds. So basically, all these factors accumulated to their obstruction during their flight because of these power lines. And basically, earlier this entire sky was very free of these kind of infrastructures, but nowadays there is mushrooming of all these infrastructure, and that's why there are more chances where these birds are getting collided with power lines.
What is being done to prevent power line collisions?
Wherever these birds are, using areas intensively, these power lines needs to be undergrounded, first of all. And in areas which are, or we can say there are some potential areas where bustards can be seen occasionally. Those areas, if there is any power line proposed, then there should be diverters or reflectors to be installed on those particular power lines. But preferably it's very because the population of Great Indian Bustard and Lesser Florican is so low, so even single bird is very precious for us. So undergrounding in those areas where these bustards and floricans are found is essentially recommended.
Another major threat to degradation of grasslands. What can be done to conserve the habitat of the bustard?
Basically, this the undisturbed grasslands or habitat have been already degraded or lost in during course of time period, and whatever grasslands are left, those are basically facing a lot of land use changes, and because of mainly what we can say unsustainable development, specifically installation of new renewable energy infrastructure. And as well as there are issues like whatever grasslands are left, those are now taken over by invasive exotic species like Prosopis juliflora or this lantana camera. So these habitat needs to be restored into grasslands, and some of the areas needs to be spared to address these threats.
Could you just talk a bit about the range of the four species of bustards found in India?
So basically, Lesser Florican and Great Indian Bustard, they do share same states, but within states, they are using different sites. For example, they are found in Rajasthan, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh. But basically, in some of the areas like Andhra Pradesh, they are sharing same landscape. But in Rajasthan, their lesser florican is found in Ajmer district, that is eastern part of Rajasthan, while Great Indian Bustard found in western part. But earlier, Great Indian Bustard and Lesser Florican were sharing same space in eastern part of Rajasthan. But now they are locally extinct from eastern part, but they are surviving in western part. So these major states, these 6 states have this population, but occupancy is very low. Like they are confined to small areas, and even count or population is very low in except Rajasthan, Great Indian Bustard. Very few individuals left in other parts of the country. But Lesser Florican is doing comparatively well than Great Indian Bustard.
What is currently being done to conserve the species across India?
So basically, this species has been listed under different, categories like IUCN. It is listed as critically endangered. Then there is under Wildlife Protection Act 1972. It has been listed as Schedule 1 species. That is, highest protection category. Then this has been recently added into CMS COP, CMS listing, as well as CITES, and even there is species recovery plan has been prepared for these 2 species in 2013, and there is lot of support by central government, Ministry of Environment and Forest Climate Change, as well as state government like Rajasthan. They are doing ex situ conservation as well as in situ conservation. So there are efforts are going on, but the way the landscape is getting changed, the way species dwindling. those efforts needs to be more focused, needs to be site based, time bound conservation needs to be done.
Okay. And how are local communities being involved in bustard conservation?
Uh, Basically, what we are doing. So I am talking about what BNHS is doing in this front. So we have a network of local people, those under uh, Godown Mitra. Actually, Godown is the name, uh, actually local name for Great Indian Bustard in Rajasthan, and Kharmor is the local name for Lesser Florican. So we have Kharmor Mitra, we have Godown Mitra. So we are engaging a few local volunteers who can help us in creating awareness, to monitor the habitat, to monitor the area. Uh, so these kind of things which we are engaging youths, and some are not only youth, those who are interested in conservation. We are also trying to do habitat restoration work through gram panchayat. So essentially gram panchayat represents all village. So this kind of work we are doing. We are trying to promote florican or bustard friendly agriculture lands, cropping, so that uh, these crops are being used by these birds. So those kind of things which we are doing through local people.
How can people living in cities contribute to bustard conservation?
Okay. So basically, what I was telling, that is, local communities like Vishnu is, they are very pro conservationists. They are working, they are, into conservation work. And like cities, definitely people can help creating awareness. They can push government for certain policy changes. Like for example, uh, there is no policy for grassland conservation. So people can force government as well at national level, state level, site level. So those kind of things can be pushed by cities, people living in cities. uh, Basically, conservation is very multidimensional, what we can say, aspect. So from cities, I really don't know how those people can contribute, but they can create awareness. They can create awareness among different stratas of the societies. Those includes policymakers. Those includes local community, and whenever time permits, they can also get involved into citizen science program. So basically, people living in city, they go for bird watching. They contribute in terms of good records, and different kinds of information can be passed on.
And my last question for you is, if you wanted to see a great Indian bustard in the wild, which place would you recommend?
Desert National Park, that is the now actually, there are only two places where these birds are still found in good number. One is Desert National Park, and other is that is under control of Indian Army, so there is restriction. So Desert National Park is the place where people can go to see the Great Indian Bustard.
Okay, so that's my final question for the interview. Thank you so much for your time.